Hey, it's Zeke Freak. Welcome to an unscripted video. One of these rambling videos. I haven't done one of these in quite some time. One of those videos where I just turn the mic on and just start talking about whatever I feel like, usually with some kind of specific topic in mind. I actually used to. I don't know if anyone would remember this, but way back when, this is actually how I would do. Not the video essays I do now, but before I did the solo Bakugaijin show videos, which actually predate the podcast. Some people might not know that even. Where I would give myself a list of bullet points, and I would just ramble on into the mic, and then cut it up and edit that into something at least sort of presentable. I used a shitty laptop mic back then, so I don't know if I'd recommend going back to those videos. Some of them are pretty shitty. Some of them are just like, let's look at Dota 2's patch notes and give some very uninformed thoughts, but that was how I did things back then. So I haven't done one of these rambling videos in quite some time. It's always really daunting to start, because as much as I talk to myself, I'm actually really self-conscious about just blabbering on into a microphone. So that's why I switched to scripted videos, and that's why, or like podcasts where I have someone to bounce off of. Just talking into the ether is a very strange experience, but once I get going, it becomes a lot more. You get used to it. So again, this is a complete ramble video. Nothing's really going to be edited all that much. I might do noise reduction, and that's just about it. And if I'm really struggling to come up with my next point, I might pause the recording just so I can think of what I want to say next. Like that, you see that? I did that. I don't know if you can hear the keyboard presses. Probably can. But I just wanted to make this quick ramble video, or maybe it's going to be super long. I don't know. You can never tell with these fucking things. Some general thoughts. I've been thinking a lot about the confirmation that Spike Chunsoft and Tokyo Games are collaborating on some sort of Danganronpa 10th anniversary project, and I get really, I'm going to be honest, I get really anxious thinking about this, and I think it's because V3 left the series in such a perfect place, such a perfect. It was such a perfect conclusion and a perfect end that it took a bit. I think it took everybody a little bit, but it took me less time, I feel, to get accustomed to the idea that as far as official media was concerned, this was going to be all there was. This was the end, And, for a long time afterward, people kept talking about like a 10th anniversary celebration project. For a long time, it was like a meme. It was a joke. Like, nobody actually thought they were actually going to do anything. But recently, and I say recently in air quotes because it was actually, I think it was a few months ago now. I don't know, time slips us all by. But Spike Chunsoft and Tokyo Games confirmed that they are collaborating on something without giving any detail as to what that could be. And I do want to preface that I don't think, because it doesn't seem like it'd be in the spirit of things, I don't think it's going to be anything that's like necessarily canon to the series, to either the Hopespeak universe or V3's universe, if you're of the inclination that they are indeed separate universes, which I think makes more sense, but of course the game does allow for the interpretation that they may in fact be one and the same. It's up to you. Either or, the canon of the series, I don't think whatever this 10th anniversary project is, I don't think it'll disrupt that in any real way, but I do have a problem with, I don't want, because it's in such a good state right now, because they left things off in such a pristine condition, as it were, where I was completely content and satisfied. I'm anxious that they might release something that tarnishes that feeling, and that does cause me a little bit of worry. And what I mean by that is that Spike Chunsoft, as cool a company as they are, I feel like, and like the moment their president, I think his name is Takahiro Sakurai, I forget offhand though, the moment he said that they were not going to continue Danganronpa without Kodaka and Kamatsuzaki, because it is their you know their it is their creation. And I think the way Sakurai worded it is that if they did it without them, it wouldn't be Danganronpa. But I think the implication, and this might vary from translation to translation, but I think the implication was more that if we did it without them, people wouldn't accept it, which I think is true in some capacity. Um, but the moment their CEO said that, I thought, this is a cool company. This is a company that lets artists do what they want, and that's really cool of them. They give Uchikoshi a budget to do the Somnium Files, and then nobody fucking buys it, and they're just like, well, we made something cool, so who cares, you gotta feel bad for Uchikoshi. Like, nothing he does ever seems to sell well, and yet he gets work because people do like what he does. It's always been interesting to me that, like, because from a conventional business perspective, and I know this is getting a little off topic, but it's a ramble video, so that's what it's going to do. Kotaro Uchikoshi, it always fascinates me because I cannot think of a single thing he's done that was actually like a big commercial success, but he just but like everything he touches has such a cult following that he kind of gets work anyway, which I think is pretty cool. What was I talking about? But back to Spike Chunsoft. As I was saying, they, as cool as they are, they do have this habit I don't like of, they don't have a ton of quality control when it comes to things that aren't main installments or like main big projects. And the example I always point to, and I'm at some point in the future I'm going to be doing a full review of it, but the V3 anthology manga is, in my opinion, kind of a garbage fire of inconsistent art quality, inconsistent characterization, and just a lot of stories that just aren't very funny or interesting. And that's kind of what I mean when I say that Spike Chunsoft, they're not immune to just stamping off something that frankly isn't really worthy of the Danganronpa license. And I am worried a little bit that maybe this 10th anniversary project might also fall into that vein. Now, I'm less worried because it's clear that Tokyo Games is involved. It's clear that Kodaka himself is involved in whatever the hell they're doing. And I don't really have a theory as to what that was or to what that is. Like, it's hard to imagine the scale of such a project. It could be a very small thing. It could be like a bunch of new merch or some shit. It could be like figures or some bullshit. That could qualify as a celebration to them, or it could be something. I mean, like I don't know. I feel like it's not going to be that though, because like what would you really need Kodaka to approve merchandise? Like, so probably nothing that small. Like these are two game developers, so the implication would be that it would be some kind of game. I remember Kodaka was talking about a while ago, like 2 or 3 years ago, or around a little after V3 came out in Japan. He was talking about the idea of doing some kind of fighting game for the series. That was something he always was interested in seeing being done. So perhaps that's it. Of course, I remember like 2 years ago, there was a list. These reports come and go every so often, but 2 years ago there was a listing. Spike Chunsoft was specifically hiring like 3D modelers or something for a quote Danganronpa related project, and then we never heard anything about that. And then like more recently, they they were putting out hiring ads again. I think this was more for just Spike Chunsoft in general, but like one of the requirements, and I'm almost positive this was a joke, but one of the requirements for the job was apparently that you have to like Danganronpa, which, I mean, I said it, that would be my hiring requirement too, but but I you know, it all pointed to the direction of something happening for this anniversary project, and of course now we know that something is indeed happening. So like, I don't exactly know what that could be. It could be like a fighting game. It could be like an expansion to the, like a standalone kind of expanded version of like the salmon mode or one of those, fucking things. It could be. I really hope it's not a fucking gacha game, especially after V3's bonus modes were entirely based on lampooning the entire practice of gacha games. You can't deny the possibility though, because I never thought Nippon Ichi would sink as low as to make a gacha game, and they did. And I think we all know how the launch of the Sky RPG went. It's back now apparently. Apparently they relaunched it. I think they relaunched it a few months ago, and I don't think they've had any major problems since then. But I mean, it is a gacha game. It's it's a blatantly unfun thing that's designed to siphon your money away. So hopefully, Danganronpa's 10th anniversary isn't going to be tarnished by something like that. But you know what I mean. I just don't want them to make something that puts a sour taste in my mouth, I guess, by either being too pandering or too, I don't know. It's hard to articulate why I'm uneasy about this, and I think it's, I don't want this, not perfect, but I don't want this like content appreciation I have for the franchise and how it concluded to be tarnished by something they crap out for the 10th anniversary. And again, I'm marginally hopeful. I don't think that is a correct use of the word marginally, but like I am hopeful, because it is Kodaka, and these people obviously care. So I hope it's nothing. I hope it's nothing so small as to be not worth the hype, and I hope it's not something so ambitious as to fall short, and I hope it's something that doesn't interfere with where the franchise is and its legacy in my mind. And I mean, I know those are vague statements, but that's kind of how I feel. I especially don't want it to interfere with any kind of canon. I know it might seem a little hypocritical of the guy behind Beyond Fiction to say, but I don't want them to continue past it. I don't want an epilogue after the epilogue. I don't want anything like that. And that's okay. I should clarify. I don't want anything like that unless it's a big thing. Unless they're making, unless Kodaka wants to make a big deal out of it. If Kodaka, and again, like, it might seem weird for me to say this, but like, if Kodaka wanted to come back and make a sequel to V3 that explored the survivors in the outside world and whatnot, even though I'm writing one of those myself, I would still accept it, because if it's Kodaka, then I trust that he's going to do something important and interesting with it, and it's not going to, it most likely won't, it will only improve my appreciation. It won't diminish it, hopefully. But again, one thing I keep returning to is that one interview post DR3 where Kodaka said about, in regards to some of the criticisms of Side Hope, that he said, yes, it's pandering, but it's happy pandering, so I think it's okay. And I'm like, I don't know about this one, Chief. I mean, I love you, Kodaka, but I'm still not sure about that quote. I just, because I feel like Kodaka, as much as he is irreverent in a way, and he doesn't really let fan opinions influence the direction of his stories and his characters. And as much as I respect him for that, I think he is susceptible to, I don't want to say peer pressure, because that's not exactly right. Fan pressure, I guess. He is susceptible to that. There were a lot of interviews post V3 when V3 had a pretty... When V3 came out in Japan, there was actually a sizable yet short-lived, I would say, backlash to the game, and specifically how it ended. And that really, in post-release interviews, that really seemed to shake up Kodaka. Like, I think he definitely expected some negative responses. I mean, hell, he baked them into the ending itself. But I don't think he might have underestimated the exact effect such a backlash would have on him mentally. And that might be at least part of the reason why he kind of stepped away from... I'm not going to say that's the reason why he started 2K Games. I don't think that is at all the reason. I think that was something he wanted to do anyway. But, you know what I'm saying, is that, like, he's only human, and he's susceptible to fan reaction in the same way. And I think that, especially now with this distance between him and the franchise, maybe if he works on something related to it again, he might slip into pandering to some of the more extreme elements of the fandom, which I'm absolutely not a fan of when that happens. You know, like, I mean, there were cases even inside V3 where I think he was already kind of pre-pandering to certain sections of a fandom that didn't even exist yet. Obviously, not. I mean, like the V3 fandom, or like the Danganronpa fandom. Obviously, that existed, but there were already cases where he was. You can check out my my V3's actual flaws trilogy of super blogs, where I specifically the Kaede section at the end of the first part, for details on what I think about that. But like, I think even as he was finishing writing the game, I think he was already backpedaling on some of the ideas he had at the start, and I don't think that ruins. Obviously, that doesn't ruin the product anyway. You know, like, I think it's still great, and for almost the entirety of the thing, it is a pure Kodaka vision. But I feel like there was in tiny subtle ways towards the end, some of the anxiousness about fan backlash was already starting to get to him, and there was a little bit of backpedaling going on. And I think, I'm not sure if the distance between the game's release and now is going to, or would it increase that likelihood or decrease it, because I can see it going both ways, where on the one hand he's had enough of a break from it and he's separated himself and worked on other projects for long enough that, you know, he no longer gives a shit what fans think, or maybe like it's waned on him and he's doubled down on it, especially since he's, you know, got his own business now. Like, is it a smart move for him to deliberately not deliberately upset people, but deliberately not please certain people, you know what I mean? So that those are kind of the things I've been thinking about. The other thing that makes me concerned about the project, though, is that Kodaka has so much on his plate right now, with 2K Games, and even outside of 2K Games. Like, just last month they announced, but Kodaka announced that he wrote a game for some other company, Izanagi Games, I believe. Sorry, it's Discord. I don't know if you could actually hear that. Anyway, he wrote a game for Izanagi Games called Death Come True. It's I keep wanting to say stop motion, but it's not. It's full motion video. It's a full motion video game, which, like, as soon as I heard that, I was like, what is this, the fucking Sega CD? But apparently that's making a comeback. This kind of live action adventure game called Death Come True, which looks interesting, and it was written by him. But but like, he's also working on, you know, the 4 big 2K Games projects, in varying capacities. Like, I think the first one to come out is definitely going to be Death March Club. Not to be confused with Death Come True. It's Death March Club. But Death March Club, I've actually learned, is it's more of an Uchikoshi It seems like more of an Uchikoshi project than a Kodaka project. It is something they're doing together. Like, the whole reason Death March Club even exists is because Uchikoshi and Kodaka wanted to do one last death game together, because they never really got the chance to do that. But I don't know how involved in the actual writing he is. Kodaka is listed as a producer of Death March Club, which producer is such an ambiguous credit. That could mean literally anything. That could mean anything from being a consultant to being a partner to just throwing money at something. So who knows? He's definitely involved in some capacity, but I don't know if he's super involved in the actual direct script writing, kind of like how he was in DR3, which even to this day I don't have like concrete details on exactly how involved with Danganronpa 3 he was. As far as I know, he wrote them a draft for Side Hope, and then he provided them with like some concepts and outlines and character ideas, and then he basically left it to the screenwriter of DR3. I don't remember his name offhand. He was like a staff person at Lurch. He was also I think he also is the mangaka for Gakugarashi. I think he's the mangaka, and apparently they're good friends now, because I think he's writing the screenplay for the other Tokyo Games project that's like an anime, which way back when I said that would probably come up first, but we haven't heard anything about that since. That's the other thing that makes me a little bit anxious about Kodaka's future projects, is the fact that they're being very silent on them. In the past like 6 months, they've started talking more about Death March Club, which I think is probably going to come out in Japan in the first half of this year. That would be my guess. That's what it seems to be building up to anyway. But the other projects they've remained very quiet on. And then also Kodaka, a lot of people don't seem to know this, but Kodaka also writes for a weekly manga that's still ongoing called Gambler's Parade, which I keep accidentally calling Gambler's Paradise, but it's Gambler's Parade. Which I've read a few chapters of it. I'm actually really interested in Gambler's Parade. I need to read some more of it. It's got some wonderful art. Not Kamatsuzaki, but someone else. But it's got some wonderful art, and I really like the craziness in the writing. So I gotta keep reading more of that. I wish I would get licensed officially here. I was actually planning on. I wanted to do like a review post about Gambler's Parade, but then I thought, I don't know if that's relevant. It might be relevant enough. I might be able to argue with the amino mods to let it be posted, but it's definitely not going to be featured. And I don't know if I'd put that much effort into something that can't be featured. Yeah. I guess me and the mods just have different ideas about what's relevant to the community, and that's fine. It's fine. But like I said, like he's working on all these different fucking things. Like if you take the Anniversary Project and Gambler's Parade into account, he is working or has been working since V3 ended in various stages on like 7 different projects at least that we know of. Somebody invited me to a chat, and I'm gonna ignore that. So like I'm kind of worried about his workload, and just like how is it going to affect the quality of what he puts out? Because I think part of the reason V3 turned out as great as it did is because he was solely focused on it for like a year and a half. But on the other hand, as I pointed out in my super blog, I think some of the problems with V3 came about because he had so much time to overthink himself. So I don't know, for Kodaka, I don't know if it's good for him I don't know if it's good for him to be busy and rushed, or if it's better for him to have all the time he needs. Because some people definitely do work better under pressure. So that's also something I think about, is what works best for him, and I honestly don't know. Because I think we've seen both examples where, and keep in mind that I still think these are wonderful games and I love them, but I think we've seen that with DR2, what can happen when something is a little bit undercooked, and with V3, what can happen when something's a little bit overcooked. And that's not saying DR1 is the best. I really hate that people jump to that conclusion when I say that, because I do think it's the weakest game, but I also can't say that it's here's the thing about DR1, and I'm probably going to write a blog about this eventually, is that it's not undercooked, it's not overcooked, it's cooked just right, it's just not a very impressive dish anymore. You know what I mean? You know, it's kind of like when people, well, they didn't really get on my case, but some people questioned why I gave like B stars an 8 out of 10. I'm just like, because I don't think it did anything super impressive. It's a solid show. I really like it. I'm not blown away, you know. It's one of those situations. DR1 has one of those situations where, like, it's hard to point out major problems with it, but it doesn't do enough for me to rate it super highly, especially now, because I think it's pretty outdated now, especially in the gameplay. But that's for another time. That's a different video or a different blog or whatever the hell I'm going to do with that. So this has just been some of my thoughts about Kodaka's future projects and whatnot. Definitely, I always look forward to everything that he does. I'm a bit concerned about this 10th anniversary thing. And I also don't know, like, when are they going to start talking about it like a real thing, you know? Are they going to start talking about it at the anniversary point, which I believe is like November 20th of this year? Is it 20th or like 13th or 10th? I don't. It's in November at some point. But are they going to start talking about it then, or are they going to talk about it beforehand and it's going to release around that time? That's the other thing, like, because I could see it going either way, depending on how long they've been working on whatever this is. So they could either announce it at the anniversary for a later date, or they could talk about it beforehand and then release it at that time. I'm not sure what they're going to do. Also, just to, in case some of my readers are listening to this, just to assure you, even if Kodaka does eventually make a post V3 whatever, which I don't think the anniversary project will be, but if he ever does, because he even said himself he left the door open for that reason. If he ever does that, that's not going to affect Beyond Fiction in any way. I'll still keep writing that, because I'm very attached to that vision. So, like, even if there's a new, quote, official canon that obviously will probably be nothing like Beyond Fiction, I will still continue Beyond Fiction. So if any of my readers are listening, don't worry about that at all. And yeah, I think that's going to do it for this rambling video. Again, completely unedited, just me just spitballing in front of a microphone for half an hour about stupid niche things that very few people would care about. So thank you for listening. Zeke Freak out. Ciao ciao for now.